Hello everyone and welcome back to Video Game Hunting here on Player One Start. This is actually part 2 of my trip that I took up to Chicago in late February of 2020. This trip was only days before 2 weeks to flatten the curve, all of the shutdowns, and the aftermath of what would occur throughout the rest of the year. Strange to think of how long ago this actually seems. But anyway, getting right into it, I perused up and down the DVD shelves, as they usually throw in a lot of video games all throughout these shelves. The first game that caught my eye was this U-Draw Pictionary. I actually have the U-Draw tablet, and I've been looking for games to try this out. Even though this product was a commercial failure, it is actually one of the biggest credited reasons for the downfall of the THQ brand name. So I'm actually curious about the quality of this title. Moving past that, I actually was interested in a couple of other sports titles I found. Wouldn't pay $50 for this, but I will pay $1.99. Next to that, I found MLB 2005 and SingStar Rocks for the PlayStation 2. Next to that, I saw Goosebumps Horrorland for the Wii. This looks like yet another party game that may be a throwaway title, but I do like the Goosebumps brand, so I may give it a try. Next to that were a couple of PS3 titles, including MLB 09 The Show and Rock Band 2. I also saw MLB 07 The Show, which I'm not really a fan of collecting a whole bunch of these, but at a lower price I might as well get them. Medal of Honor Frontline is a game that I've been looking for a while, as my copy no longer works. Unfortunately, this one was missing the discs, so I had to pass on it. I don't find original Xbox titles in here too often, but I do collect them when I can. Another title to fill out the PS3 collection would be Madden 09. I remember seeing this backyard series of sports games back in the day throughout the PlayStation 1 and PlayStation 2 era. I remember them being fun, but I think I only played Backyard Football. I don't think I played the Backyard Baseball series, and had no idea it went on to 2009. So I decided to pick up this curiosity. Ah yes, is there nothing that The Simpsons would slap their face on? I did notice a lot of camera equipment that seems to be more popular to collect up here. Up on the top shelf, it looked like they had a new copy of Battlefield Hardline. I don't think I've ever seen that in a Goodwill. I also thought this little ceramic mini Darth Vader thing was kind of neat next to the drone. Of course, most of the stuff they have in the case is way overpriced for my taste. These CD shelves really do take a long time to go through. It almost makes me wish that they would put the games aside from the music, but rather than have you watch as I painstakingly go through every single one of these, I'll go ahead and show the titles here I found of note. There's actually a variety of media in this pile. The first thing I have here is this goofy skateboarding adventure game for the PC, and it looks like the disc is in good shape, so I'll go ahead and pick this one up. I found the Game of Life on CD-ROM, which I used to play the heck out of back on the PlayStation 1. Sadly, there's no discs, so I can't get it. This Disney Girlfriends game was intriguing to me, though not something I usually collect. Something I never find in my area are video CD titles, and this one of The Patriot was actually a good one to pick up, because I do like that movie. There were many more titles up here, including these You Don't Know Jack games, which I played a lot as a kid. One of the more disappointing finds here was this Introduction to Call Centers software that I was looking forward to looking at, but unfortunately it's Hot Shots Golf, which I do like that game and already have it, so I decided to pass on this. I was very much looking forward to being introduced to call centers through 1995 software. And here are some more discs that may or may not show up in my final haul, because many of these had either discs beyond repair or they were just missing the discs entirely. But here's everything I ended up going to the checkout with in terms of computer software from the CD rack, and there are a few video CD titles in there, such as Remember the Titans and Chicken Run. Alright, moving back to the big old pile of electronics they have back here, they have the junk printers and keyboards, which I see in every Goodwill, even in my area. But one of the things I'm very disappointed in, as I looked through this footage, I did not see that zip CD-ROM drive sitting up there on the top. Wish I would have grabbed that, but live and learn, I guess. And yep, I often do find these plug-and-play consoles. This one of the Atari was a bit tempting, but I thought they were asking too much for it, and I didn't see any controllers sitting next to it, so I don't think it was complete. Scooby-Dooby-Doo! And due to the fact that I was very happy to find some video CDs finally, I decided to go ahead and say that my visit was green smiley face. If I'm on fire, is that okay? Alright, taking a break from some of the Goodwills, I decided to stop by another one of these video rental stores that sadly, as of this year, have all gone out of business. This is actually where I've found most of my Wii U collection to date, and I am hoping to find some Wii U titles that I am still missing. Looking through this store, I have to keep reminding myself that this is a rental store and not everything is for sale. But some of the more modern games were starting to be clearanced out, as from what I could tell, they were starting to make room for the next generation of games that were going to come out that they would eventually rent. Who would have thought last year that they would be preparing for a future that would never come? Moving right over to the Wii U titles, I was disappointed in a couple of ways. First off, the titles that are for sale are $10 a piece arbitrarily. So things like Star Fox Guard were $10. That's definitely not worth it. The other sad thing is that since these face the window, all of the cover art are faded. On the other hand though, all of these are titles that I already have, so there's nothing here that I need to get. Their Nintendo DS selection left something to be desired. I was just about to give up on this store when on the way out I came across their clearance section, and that's where I found a bunch of games that, even though they're listed for prices here, they were all arbitrarily 99 cents. So I did give a look through over all of these titles, and hey, here are the DS games that they had cleared off the other shelf, so I guess that explains why that sign is still there on the empty shelf. One thing I will say is that they did have all of these titles sealed, so before I bought them, I made the clerk open them up with these pair of scissors, and we looked at every single disc, and yes, most of them needed to be cleaned and polished. So we went ahead and did all that. Even though I was buying these for 99 cents, I wanted to make sure they were going to work. The cashier was pretty cool about it though. The store was pretty dead, so I think he was just happy to have some company for a while. This is like Back to the Future. Where's the train? Whew. Invisible ghost train. Alright, after the ghost train, we are on to yet another Goodwill. Right away next to the glass case, I noticed something I don't usually see in Goodwills, and that are these... I don't know if these are digital projectors, or if they're just so old that no one really wanted these anymore. But yeah, if you're looking for really old projectors, I guess you have them here. Then we had Yahtzee Jr. with Pokemon, next to Pokemon Sorry in there. On top of that shelf, next to the Con Air, was a Kinect sensor bar, it looked like. And if you collect New Balance shoes, I guess these are here for you as well. Now here's something I don't really mention a lot on here, but I usually go through, are these carts that are basically filled with merchandise that just hasn't been shelved yet. In this store, it looked like they were being a bit lazy and just leaving everything on the cart for people to go through. This is intriguing. I have no idea why this ended up here, or even if it's legal to buy without the other equipment with it. I recognized this power brick here as being to a game console, and I was correct, but I was thrown off by the Japanese writing on the back of this Microsoft Xbox 360 power supply. After looking at the voltages, I found out that this is most likely to a Japanese Xbox 360, a real rarity indeed. If only they had the rest of the console, I would have considered getting this. They also had an extra Wii sensor bar. I can always use one of those. However, used Wii controller protectors, I do not want. These things are probably nasty. I see you, Wii Fitboard, hiding down there. Though this trip hasn't really yielded anything out of the board game section, I will say that I don't think I'll ever buy a board game brand new ever again. Several of these are almost in brand new condition or are still sealed, and they are much cheaper than buying them brand new. So yes, even when I'm out video game hunting, I will occasionally pick up a board game from time to time. Now, I have seen pianos in Goodwill before, but this is the first time I saw an electric organ. Again, not my style, but something I found that was neat. Oh yes, I remember seeing these cheap gamer chairs in retail stores back in the day. This is what I thought was going to be the first computer I ever found in a Goodwill, but unfortunately it is just the case. It looks like it came off of a rack-mounted server unit. Sadly for the price, it still didn't make it worth it to me. I have often also checked out the vinyl sections in these stores and passed on most of it because you get things like this polka album here, which I'm sure polka music is appreciated by many people, but one of those people is not me. Okay, unless it's Weird Al. Scanning through the media section here left no results, so I decided it was time to move on. Turn down Toys R Us. It's sad. Alright, it's on to another Goodwill, and in this one the first thing I saw was one of these, I think they're called Tuffy carts. Basically they were used for like AV transportation back when I was in school. We knew when this cart was coming out it was either going to be an overhead with transparencies or maybe even a slide projector. I still use one of these old carts in the school I work in, although sadly not for an overhead. Looking through the electronics, the first thing that caught my eye was the second wireless router that I ever had. Upgrading from wireless B to wireless G was a big deal back in the day. I thought America Online was for dummies. Oh, the media section in this store seems to be very organized, and yes, they do have all of the video games here in this nice little corner. However, the first thing I noticed is that most of these are junk sports titles again. But I was happy to find some junk Wii U titles that I didn't have in my collection yet. Well, at least the Skylanders game I didn't have. And yep, it has the discs, so I will go ahead and grab this one. Also near that, I found a PlayStation 3 Blu-ray demo disc that I think would have came with the original launch model of the PlayStation 3. This also could have come as part of a free promotion that PlayStation did when the PS3 first came out, of getting a free Blu-ray that you had to mail in for. So my first Blu-ray was actually Pirates of the Caribbean 3. I am very curious to see what's on this disc, so I may show a little bit of it here at the end of the video. The CD rack was a lot less organized, and so rather than have you look through this whole thing with me, I went ahead and put the titles I was planning on getting here at the top. Some of you who have watched the channel for a while may recognize these CD plus G karaoke discs, as I used them to demonstrate the feature of karaoke CDs on a Sega CD, and if you're interested in seeing that video, I'll leave a link in the description below. I have been getting a lot of mid-90s PC games here, and other software, so if you're interested in seeing some of these titles, let me know down in the comments below, and I may circle back to a few of these. On to another more modern-looking Goodwill. The first thing that caught my eye in this store was actually on the electronics shelf, and I found a DVD recorder. I have one that is the same brand, but it was actually having some issues around the time that I saw this, and last summer it actually died. These devices are actually the only way that I've been able to get RF signal devices captured, such as the Atari 2600 and the ColecoVision. It was interesting that I found one of these roll-out keyboards underneath a, well, roll-out keyboard. These things are neat, but I would never buy them used because they attract dust and they were overall very sticky. Next to those were one of these Sony digital Mavica cameras. I actually used one of these back in the day for our high school's yearbook. And although I found this very nostalgic to actually hold in my hands, I didn't pick it up because, number one, it was missing the power adapter, pretty sure it needed a proprietary battery, and there was just no way for me to test it to see if it was actually going to work. So sadly I did not end up getting this. In the glass cabinet they had a whole bunch of these old shellac records, which appeared to be intact. Here's an old video camera that I really couldn't find much information about. I think this plugs into a VCR, but the connector on it left me puzzled. More interestingly though was this 4GB Xbox 360 that they had sitting right next to it, that for some reason had a price tag of $9.99. Even if that's just for parts, I decided that might be worth a pickup, so I'll have to come back to this one. And speaking of testing to see that things work, I decided it would be prudent to plug in the DVD recorder and see what kind of results I get. Sadly, I really couldn't get past this loading screen that seems to be going on the front here. I even plugged it into a TV and it wouldn't output any image, so I'm not quite sure what was going on here. The eject button didn't work, and I couldn't get anything else to happen with it, so sadly, I had to leave this back on the shelf next to the keyboards I had no interest in. And as the sun has set, I have time for one last Goodwill. Right off the bat, I didn't think I would find something, and here's a PlayStation Move controller. This is the PS3 edition, and I have been looking for these for a while. Never found one so cheap, so I will definitely grab it. I also found an Xbox controller that has the USB stick on the end of it rather than the actual plug into a console. I did find this Hot Wheels mini console, and it has two different price labels on it. Sadly, they wanted to go with the more expensive one, so I told them to put it back on the shelf. This Ferrari mouse was interesting to me. I thought about getting it, but it was missing the piece off the back, and we couldn't test to see if it worked, so I decided to skip it. Again, I was intrigued by another Guitar Hero guitar, but it was busted, and the one behind it wasn't in good shape either, so I decided to pass on these. And I will always say no thank you to Jumanji. And yet another Wii Fit board. Moving on to the display case, I was definitely intrigued by the games they had sitting here at the bottom, as they had some PS3 titles, and they had some PSP games. I did decide to pick up a couple of these. Outside of the display case and next to the registers, I did find a few Xbox games, and another PSP game caught my eye, but the rest of these here were throwaway junk sports titles. But that, my friends, wraps up this entire epic Great Goodwill Gathering trip. But before I let you go, I should show you everything I got in this massive haul. So first, I will just say, wow, this is probably one of the biggest game lots I have ever collected on a video game hunting run. I ended up getting titles for a variety of systems here, but nothing too retro. Some of the items I've already featured from this run include the Karaoke CD plus G discs that I used to demonstrate the functionality of the Sega CD in being able to read and display the data on these discs. I was not expecting to find those or the video CDs, and even a lot of PC games. Usually the only PC games I find in a Goodwill store are limited to throwaway titles, screensavers, print studios, things like that. And for the first time in a long time, I found a game console there as well. That 4GB Xbox 360 does work. The PlayStation Move controller was an excellent find as well. The Wii, PlayStation 3, Xbox 360, and the Nintendo DS titles are really nothing to write home about, but they are helping me fill out my collection of those consoles. On those PSP games that I have, I actually got those from another game store much later than this run. I had passed on them because the pricing was a bit too high in that store. I actually got those from a retro game store closer to my house, and they were much more moderately priced. So for me, it is a reminder not to jump the gun and pay too much for products, just because a retailer is asking a high price for them. Lastly, that clear Xbox controller, which I did get, is not shown here because it is currently out on loan. And again, I should emphasize that this is only half of what I got. If you want to see the other part of this trip, there is a part 1 to this video, which you can view now, or you can wait until after I show you, as promised, some of the footage from that PlayStation 3 Blu-ray demo disc. So this disc looks like something that actually could have been streamed later on, but keep in mind when the PlayStation 3 came out, streaming was really not much of an option. In 2006, it was even hard to get a mobile phone to actually stream video, and most people streaming YouTube at the time would have been streaming it to a desktop PC or a laptop PC. Even myself, when I first got my PlayStation 3, I had it hooked up to a CRT television, so I wasn't able to take advantage of high-definition graphics outputting the PS3 in 480i. There was a slight difference, but you can tell that Blu-ray was providing a better image than DVD. Turning to the content of the disc, it's actually kind of interesting the games that they're showcasing here. Some games, like Little Big Planet, wouldn't even be released for the next couple of years. But I think the bigger point that they're making with this video is what you can do with the PlayStation Network. It was something that really had to be explained to a lot of consumers at the time. Remembering that the PlayStation 2 prior to this had no online store and no official PlayStation Online membership. Sony was indeed copying the ideas that Microsoft was using their online service and porting them over to the PlayStation. But in true PlayStation style, they would undercut the price of the market, making all of these services free for the home user. That's right, PSN used to be free. The other video in here, entitled Get Your Game On, is actually just a game trailer for MotorStorm. I don't think this game was released at launch, but it was bundled with my console when I picked mine up in May of 2007. When viewed on an HD television, this really did showcase the graphical prowess of the PS3 over the PlayStation 2. But sadly, they focus more on providing movie trailers rather than providing game trailers. I guess because this disc is actually showcasing the power of Blu-ray versus DVD, as they were still at war with HD DVD over who would provide high-definition content on disc. Overall, I don't think this title is worth collecting for most people, as it is nothing more than a collection of a couple of game trailers and a bunch of movie trailers that would have been out in 2006. That said, that is going to wrap up this video. Remember, if you like what you see, please click on that like button, leave a comment down below, let me know what you liked about today's video. Again, I want to thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you all in the next one. If you like this video and you'd like to help out with future projects on this channel, please consider supporting me on Patreon. Also, if you enjoy the content of this channel, please remember to click on the subscribe button. Again, I want to thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you next time.